Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano video. Today I'm sitting down with Ethan, who is one of the team members, founders from Optim, to talk about what they're doing on Cardano. They're doing something that we haven't really seen on Cardano yet. It's a DeFi play, yield, optimizer, aggregator. There's a lot of different things going on, especially for people who are interested in putting the ADA or assets in and letting them work for them. So looking forward to getting into this. Ethan, you're very welcome on the channel.
Thanks so much, Paul. Hey, I'm Ethan from Optim Finance. Been around Cardano for a while. Started off way back in the day at MinSwap, but far before launch. Have team members that have worked inside, on projects at IOHK. We've been building for over 2 years now. We started out with a idea to make it easy for anyone to earn yield on Cardano. And typically in other DeFi ecosystems, these are called yield aggregators or optimizers, whereby you deposit some assets and then smart contracts that are deployed on chain are able to automate a lot of the functions and actions that go into getting yield on, in this case, ADA or other assets. So when we started building a few years ago, a lot of what we wanted to do was not possible. The tooling, the libraries, even Icon wasn't available. And there weren't a lot of other DeFi protocols to build on top of. So we started out with our first product was sort of not an aggregator, you would say. Aggregators typically, send assets to a number of different protocols and automate those things. Sort of getting you yield, putting assets to work on a bunch of different protocols and automating those functions. But since there weren't a lot of protocols, we launched a product called liquidity bonds, and that has been live for over a year now. We've had about 150 million ADA in sort of historic TVL that's been locked in the protocol over the last year or so since launch. And that was, what we'll call a yield product, and people deposited ADA and lent out just the staking rights to it for a fixed duration for a fixed amount of interest, right? And then there would be a borrower who wanted to use just the staking rights to ADA, maybe to put more ADA than they had custody of in an ISPO or stake pool operators trying to bootstrap a pool. We've seen a few other sort of copies of that concept since we launched. I think Fluid Tokens, Boosted Stake basically does the exact same thing. Denogo launched something. Optim sort of designed that and pushed it out into market first. And it's been a great product. But now that the ecosystem has reached a certain point of maturity, we built a product that is very much aligned with what we originally set out to do, which is taking assets and putting them to work in an automated way, particularly ADA, and optimizing yield and doing a bunch of really cool, interesting things on chain under the hood, but all permissionlessly within these smart contracts to get people yield on their ADA. So that's OADA. We've been working on it for like 6-8 months now. And we're launching it within the next day. I mean, by the time this is live.
It'll probably be a day or two before this comes out from recording here. So chances are it could be live when we finish this. So we'll leave links down below. I think it was probably 2 years ago we had a call first, and the ecosystem was very different back then. There's a lot has happened since that. So it's great to see the product now coming to the market. I know you're going to show a demo at the minute or in a few minutes, but just on a high level, who's the type of user that would get involved or want to use something like this?
These are just ADA holders, we would say. Anyone who holds ADA, who wants yield and wants what we call passive yield, right? Part of the thesis behind this product is we knew staking yield was declining. It's below 3% now, on average, I think maybe in the mid to high 2% range for yield on ADA. And There are a lot of users who are used to just passively staking ADA and getting yield on it. They don't want to open a CDP, maybe on Indigo, maybe, the interest rate changes or, the RMR changes, you get liquidated, or, you don't want to LP on a DEX and possibly incur impermanent loss, or to have to hold another token, right? ADA, min or whatever it is, and one token's moving around. So how do you get yield on ADA? Just ADA, not having to buy other tokens, not having to manage positions, and passively earn above the staking rate, the staking rate, which is now quite low. And so anyone who holds ADA, institutional holders, whales, individuals, projects with a treasury, we call it pure ADA yield, right? And harvest this token and sell it and redeposit, or, farm governance tokens. There's no farming. There's no, doing all sorts of things. It's just, we'll show in the demo, right? But you put your ADA in and you get your yield out in ADA.
Okay, so for anyone coming that wants to get involved in this, there will be, I suppose, a front end they can go in. They're depositing their ADA into a smart contract, and basically from there, the contracts take over and try to optimize the yield that it can get back. Is it?
Yep, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. Do you want to show the demo now, and then we can talk a bit more about some of the questions around it and how it all comes together?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Bring that up. Yep, your screen is on show now.
Okay, great. So we can see this is the dashboard. This gives you an overview of the system. We have the TVL, how much total ADA has been deposited and is locked in the system. And then you can see it's broken down here between two different tokens. So there's OADA, which is the sort of yield stripped trading token of the system. And then there's staked OADA. And the staked OADA is how, one of the ways that someone earns passive yield. And so we'll talk a little bit more about why would you just hold OADA rather than stake it to earn the yield. And of course, there's things that you can do with your OADA that you can't do with staked OADA. And so it's broken down into two tokens, but essentially you come here and you mint some amount of OADA with ADA. So we mint 100 ADA here, and then comes OADA, transaction processes. Then we stake it, and we don't know, right, in the user interface. We have to have one epoch of historical sort of yield data to show what the staking OADA rate is, but we expect it to be well above the staking rate, the sort of that 2.8%, 3% staking rate on ADA. We expect it to be meaningfully above that, and then once you have staked OADA, you hold it and you accrue the yield that the system generates. And we'll get into how the system generates yield. And then to realize the yield in ADA, you on-stake your SOADA, and you get back OADA. And you get back, typically, if the system is working correctly, you get back more OADA for each SOADA than you started. So there's a conversion rate, right? And as the system accumulates underlying yield, that exchange rate between OADA and SOADA changes. And so, each SOADA, when you redeem, should be worth more OADA. And then, if you want to go back just into ADA, swap button, and this button will take you to the splash pool where it trades, where you can trade OADA for ADA. So you don't actually swap out of OADA back into ADA on our user interface. You go to a DEX. At first, it's going to be Splash, and that is where the sort of redemptions, if you will, or swaps or conversions from OADA back to ADA happen. And our system automatically arbitrages that pair to keep the peg within a very tight 1% range. So you should always be able to get back, you know, 0.99 to 1.01 ADA for each OADA. So we try to keep it simple: mint, stake, earn, right? You mint your OADA with ADA. You can stake it for SOADA. And then, when you want to get your yield out of the system, you on stake, get more OADA back for each SOADA, and then you go up to a DEX and swap it back out for ADA if you want. And yeah, so
coming back then on, I think you've summed it up there for people. For anyone who wants the extreme high level of it, if you have ADA, you can go onto the system, mint OADA. Then you have two choices. You can keep the OADA, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, why you might keep that. Or you just take the OADA you just minted and then stake it into the system. The system does all of the work behind the scenes, going in and out of different yield farms or whatever opportunities are there. And whenever you want, then you can reclaim the OADA, but you should be getting back more than you actually put in. And then you could swap it out to ADA using the splash pool to start with, maybe others in the future. But why would someone not stake with the system? So why would I, as a user, go in, mint OADA, and then keep it? What other opportunities would I have that would make me do that?
Sure. So in the dashboard here, you can see OADA yields. There's obviously the SOADA. That's one way to get yield on your OADA is you stake it. The other yield opportunities, I'll keep it short. You can LP on a DEX, right? There's OADA, ADA is a stable swap pair. So on Splash or other DEXs, you can LP. There might be nice yield there. Trading other tokens, right? The Optim governance token is going to be primarily traded against OADA. So if people want to LP Optim OADA or purchase Optim governance token, that would probably be done with OADA. And as the system expands, there are going to be other yield opportunities and functions that OADA will have in the ecosystem, other opportunities and use cases for it.
Okay, so I think it will pique the interest of some people who've been involved in this before or who are doing it themselves, because when you don't do all the activities yourselves, and I'm cautious of the words I use here, especially with everyone needs to check with their own countries and tax and everything. If someone else does the work or the contracts do it rather than you going in and out, it might just be one transaction you have to account for later on. But security-wise on this, that will be the big question, because from my understanding, what's happening is I put my funds into the contract, but the contract then moves the funds in and out of various different contracts, whether they're yield farming or whatever they are, lending, borrowing across the ecosystem. How are you going with security audits and everything there?
Sure. So we have had audits on the core system as well as had it open sourced. And then, yield strategies, we will also, be, putting through audits in the beginning. They are, closed source, but they're actually not that many yield strategies to start with, and they're very conservative. So, most of them are, I don't know how, much we want to dig into the complexities of the system and the nuances, but, at first, the main yield strategies or AMOs, as we call them, are just this Splash OADA, ADA LP. So there's some smart contract risk, of course, for Splash. That is what the system is taking on, as well as this stake auction to the left here. So we're auctioning off the staking rights per epoch, and putting that yield into the underlying staking system. So and then we're probably going to launch a liquid lending module. So any smart contract risk on liquid. We're really taking a very conservative approach here. and not, to, sort of niche or what we would consider a higher risk protocol. So yeah, that's, our approach to security is, audits, open source, and being very conservative with the protocols we work with.
Okay. And will there be different opportunities for, I talk a lot on the channel about people breaking up their portfolio into allocations to different risk levels and not to go all in on one. Like this would be one allocation people could have in their portfolio, putting some into this and some into other stuff. But within this, will there be options on high, low, medium risk in terms of putting the OADA in when I'm staking it? Or is it just there's one level and the system decides what happens then behind that?
Yeah, so there are sort of two levels. For SOADA, there it's not tranched or anything like that. There's one risk level, but the stakers do incur first loss for any losses on strategies. So, if there were a hack in another protocol and there were to be a loss on the underlying ADA, the stakers would incur that first loss, and that helps maintain that OADA peg, right? So I guess the lower risk strategy would be to just hold OADA and find yield with it, right? In maybe the OADA ADA LP, and it would be expressed in the conversion rate, right? If a loss was taken on a strategy, each SOADA would be worth less OADA. The underlying ADA would be.
Yeah, it wouldn't be backed whatever 1 to 1 or whatever the ratio will be if it increases slightly. So if I kept the OADA myself, would I be? I suppose I'm in direct competition then with the system that's there because we'd both be trying to compete for the same yield, would we?
In a way, you could say that. But there is also, a fee taken between 10 and 20% fee taken on the underlying yield for the stakers. So that has to be taken into consideration, as well as, for the OADA ADA LP, that yield is not really in competition with the staking system. The way that that strategy works for stakers is a bit different than it works for someone purely LPing with OADA in it. So I wouldn't say they're necessarily in direct competition, and there are some differences in fees and as we talked about, of course, risk, and then the way that the strategies are structured.
Okay. And are there limits on people getting involved, on people coming in now? Is there a certain amount can be minted with the limited strategies that are out there, or is it unlimited?
So in the beginning, there will be a limit to the staking. That you could call that a staking vault, whatever term you want to use. But yes, there will be a limit to the amount that can be staked. So in the beginning, we're opening up 1 million OADA capacity for staking, and then we expect each week we're going to open at probably around 1 million. It hasn't been determined in that staking vault. Over time, the system will be, completely open, and we expect that the market will find some equilibrium. When too many people stake and the yield is diluted, some people will pull out, and yeah, over time there will not be a limit for staking.
Okay. Yeah, good to hear. And what's the future plans for it? I know you mentioned there is the governance token. Will the community with the governance token decide any additions to this, or is there any already on the roadmap?
Yeah, we've got a few strategies on the roadmap. We've got a liquid lending module or AMO on the roadmap, as well as a few other strategies that we're working on. And yeah, of course, Optim token holders, vote on the implementation of those strategies, are able to propose strategies and guide the direction of the protocol.
Okay. Trying to think what else. I'm conscious of keeping this fairly high level understandable today. I know I sat down with Zygomed a while back now, and we kind of got maybe too deep down in some of the technical stuff, maybe not even specifically OADA with some of the other stuff that you guys are working on. But anything we haven't covered today that people should know getting into this or would be good to know about the protocol?
I'm sure I'm missing something, but check out the stake auction as well. You can see here on the left, this is our sort of new DApp hub, the liquidity bonds. This is our first product that is still live and working, and it still has millions of dollars in TVL in it. That's sort of, borrowing staking rights for, fixed periods, typically, 1 month to 6 months and beyond. But this is a very interesting opportunity, is this, epoch stake auction. And that allows people to sort of flash bid on staking rights, for a single epoch. So that's something kind of cool. We'll have a borrowing module in the future, as you can see soon, but not really. I mean, it's the system is going to scale over time. Just if you're interested in more of the mechanics of what the contracts are doing with the ADA reserves, right? When people mint OADA, they're getting sort of a derivative token that is strongly pegged, and we take the underlying ADA that was used to mint, of course, put in the contracts and deploy it to earn yield. And yeah, anyone interested, jump in our Discord. We're always happy to talk, and we'll get more into the weeds of what's actually going on underneath the hood to generate this yield.
Okay, yeah, I'll leave all them links down below. And just to touch on before we finish, the epoch stake auction, is that like just before an epoch ends that the delegation or the stake would be delegated to wherever I want, or how does something like that work?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like boosted stake or liquidity bonds. It is delegated wherever a person directs it. And maybe we could have another video for that. But I haven't, I actually designed this UI, but I haven't dug into it in a while. Where you can have market orders and limit orders for, there's actually, talk about use cases for OADA, why one might want to hold and use OADA and not stake it. You can see when paying for staking rights and bidding on them right here, there is a discount for paying with OADA. So that's one thing. We're going to be rolling many things out like this. And yeah, so this is just sort of a flash auction. All of much of the OADA that the ADA that's in the system that backs this OADA, those staking rights can be purchased.
Okay, and I suppose this is a variation of the liquidity bonds, or I'm presuming the idea came from somewhere around that, but this is obviously on a much shorter timescale.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Okay, and maybe I'll get into some use cases on that another day for people that might be interested in it. And what's just for people that mightn't have heard it before, the reason this is possible on Cardano is because the two keys with every wallet. So you have your payment key and you have your stake key. So with the stake key, that's where you assign the staking rights of the ADA, and then the payment key is the one that actually controls it to move the ADA in and out. We've seen, I think that geez, why am I'm going to cut this because I can't think. Oh, Indigo. Drew a blank there. We see that Indigo was one of the first protocols, I think, that I seen putting this on mainnet. Maybe there was some other ones where you keep the staking rights of the ADA, even though you use it to mint assets. We see some of the order book dexes doing the same thing, where you keep the staking rights, but you're still utilizing your ADA. So lots of possibilities there. Ethan, thanks for your time today. Hopefully this helps people get a better understanding of what's there for OADA, what's possible. I will create a demo in around this on how to use it once it's out on mainnet too, and we can catch up at some point maybe to cover more on the staking rights and what can happen there, as well as advancements for Optim.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll just get in at the very end here, a quick shill for our Catalyst Fund 12 proposals. Search Optim on the Catalyst voting app. We've got some really important proposals to expand the system to boost DeFi. Would be very helpful, and we will build products, put them out live, unique products for Cardano DeFi.
Yeah, sounds good. I will leave the links to the Catalyst proposals down below as well. Everyone watching, thanks for watching. Please do share it out. Let people know what's going on here. Subscribe for more videos like this and looking deeper into tutorials around DeFi, Optim, and other stuff around the Cardano ecosystem. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.